All right, thank you very much, Scott. Steve, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Coming in good. And I see your desktop. I see Albert.
Albert, well then everything is working as it should. I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their busy day to come here, Steve and myself. Got some good stuff for you guys today. But before we get started, as always, Albert needs to take care of a little of the legal lawyer stuff here. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that we are a publisher, and the information that we share with you here today is strictly for educational purposes. So please don't misconstrue what we share with you here today as a solicitation to buy or sell anything. All right, moving right along here. As you can see here, we've included a little price performance chart on Holly, and we can see that the gap is continuing to increase, and we cracked above those previous highs. So we'll talk more in detail about Holly a little bit later in the webinar. So moving right along here, what we're going to talk about today first is what we like to term finding the action. Then we'll get into the Holly and our limit alerts and our trend change and all that good stuff that everybody typically likes to see. So without further ado, let us get rolling here. All right. So Steve, once again, everything's clear, right? I moved Albert out of the way, and now you should be seeing one of my desktops here.
Yep.
And to get started here, as everyone can see here, I've got the channel bar up, and I believe, just to make sure, I'm going to click on the, we're going to start off today looking at the active trading channel. And what I'd like to expose you guys today, expose to everyone today is, what we call the methodology, a good methodology to use trade ideas, all right? Because as we know, every day in the market, there may be similar days, but every day is different. And every day, there's alpha hiding in different corners of the market, and it's up to us to sniff that alpha out. And it could be hiding in some deeply recessed corners, but don't worry, we've got great technology that helps us sniff out that type of activity. Okay, so here we are in the active trading channel. A lot of our clients use this channel. A lot of high-end hedge funds, trade desks, individual traders. I mean, they come from all different walks of life, but this is one of the most, widely used channels, and it is widely used for a reason, because it's helping us ferret out that alpha that's hiding, and it might be hiding right under your nose. But, as we like to say, we give you different lenses on the market data stream. If you're wearing the same pair of glasses every day, you're going to see the same stuff every day. It's kind of like what's going on in the physical world around us right now. Well, we can see our screens, we can see everything that we normally see, but guess what? There's radio waves flying all over the place. There's infrared. There are a litany of other spectrums that you can't see. Now imagine for a moment if I were to hand you a pair of glasses. Hey, when I put these on, I can see ultraviolet. I can take these off and put another pair on, I can see infrared. And that's what we do at Trade Ideas. We give you different lenses to see what most people can't and will never see, and much less act on that information. All right, so to help illustrate that, you might be taking a look at some of these windows here. Oops. Turbo brakes. This is a window that I designed many moons ago. It spits out a lot of good information. Here we can see biggest bounce on losers. So stocks that are down the most for the day. Over here we can see stocks with that are up the most for the day, but that are taking the biggest pullbacks. And we can sort these stocks. Let me just stretch this out a little bit here so everybody can get a little bit better of an eyeball on what I'm going to be showcasing here. So for example, it's not just random that we have all these different filters for change in the 30-minute period, change in the 5-minute period, change in the 10, 60-minute periods, because most products out there, you're not going to find these types of metrics. Only here at Trade Ideas will you get all of these custom metrics that we have created and that we track and that we update every single day with every tick of every stock in the market every day without fail. So you may be asking yourself, well, what kind of value can I get out of these windows today, and how does it tie in here to the methodology? So once again, every day is new. how can we find the things that are going to give us the best opportunity for locking in some of that alpha on a daily basis? And keep in mind as we're going over these things, they don't necessarily have to be acted upon today. So what we're going to be showing you are, hey, these stocks were up big or down big today, and now with a big pullback one way or the other on the 30-minute period, it's time to take a look at these guys. So to start, we might be sorting from change from the 30-minute period, greatest to smallest. So just randomly pulling up a stock here, and once again we've got the, I'm going to push these over here because it's just kind of backwards for me. I'm going to put the daily
Muted.
over on the left. I'm going to put this guy on the right. Okay, so as we're looking at these stocks on a daily basis, we can sort by any of these columns just by double-clicking. And see, this might not seem like that big a deal. Oh, well, I can resort the column. But keep in mind, you might have 100 stocks on this list, because the top lists, if we right-click and go to time frame, we can show 100, which is what they're set up to default show, or we can show up to 1,000 if that's what we want to do. So during the trading day, we pull these windows up and we're like, okay, I tell you what, let us sort by what's up the most or down the most since the prior close. And you can see that, you know, we've got some stocks here that, you know, on the daily, we can see the pattern forming here, but we can see this thing had a huge gap down, right? And then, you know, pretty much most of the day it was a flat line. Now, what, you know, taking into consideration what we see here, not a lot's going on here. Maybe it's a non-interest. So, next on the list, we can see here that, you know, at one point in the day, this thing was, you know, spiked 2.8%. And if we look at the corresponding chart here, we can see that more than likely, you know, in a 30-minute period, once it hit the bottom here, it spiked back up. So this might alert us to something good. Maybe it does, maybe it does not. A lot of the times we're going to be focusing on what that daily pattern yields. But let's say we want to get a little bit more specific. We want to see the things that were either up or down at least 10%. So we can see my filter combination here, change from the close is currently set at a minimum of 3% down. So we can easily pop in here and go, okay, instead of 3, I want to see the bigger movers. So I'm going to change this to a 10. Notice how the list got dramatically shorter. Wow. Okay, well, let's do the same thing over here. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's so easy to change one of these factors. Right-click, configure. The filters are already going to be in here for you. So, you know, all we have to do is go, okay, well, all I have to do is change that 3 to a 10. And then voila. So, now that this list is updated, now we've refined these lists. So now we can start checking out, you know, okay, first off, there's a reason why these stocks were either up or down 10% from the prior close. That's the first thing to take note of here. So why is that happening? Well, more than likely, it could be, you know, earnings. There could be a litany of things that are causing this thing to be up or down 10 cents from the close. Now, what we have to figure out from this point on is any of this stuff interesting to us moving forward? So now we can sort by this, you know, change in the 30-minute period. And of course, the market is closed, but in the daytime, you know, when the market is open, you know, these types of plays can yield some very interesting things. So on the downside, not near as many to kind of check out here, but interestingly enough, TXRC, you know, here's the daily. It's been in this little, you know, kind of strange area over here. Could be a base camp, a little bit stretched out, Steve, for typically the things that we like to see. But you know what? A lot of the times, it just really doesn't matter. So we can see here, you know, TRXC gets hammered on the open. and then boom, it takes that nice bounce there. So, going from a with the trend standpoint, once it takes its bounce up here and starts forming this little pattern here, from an intraday standpoint, you're like, well, there was extreme selling on it. It was down huge, and as we all know, stocks are going to bounce off their bottoms and they're going to fade off their tops. But, stocks very rarely go straight up or straight down.
Yeah.
So, in the middle of the day, once this big bounce has been taken, we can say, okay, something's wrong with the stock. Huge selling, down big, it's taken its bounce. So is this an actionable item right here? And from a day trading standpoint, all we have to do is draw some lines once these things start forming, and we can see, okay, the big sell happened on the open, it bounced up, but more than likely, there's no guarantee, but there's probably more selling in this stock. And then we could, of course, go to the more traditional means, is there news on it or whatever. But we can get a lot of value from looking at these windows right here. Notice I have these windows pinned so that every time I pop in a symbol, I immediately have all this fundamental data laid out to me, right in front of my eyes. So we can quickly see that, hey, the short growth and the short float, 26% of this float is short. Now, speaking of floats, we can see that there's almost 75 million shares in that float. And as Steve and I like to talk about all the time, when we're picking out these daily patterns here, and of course this would also coincide right here, we could say, okay, if this thing continues to punch down and breaks this wick right here, we definitely want to know about it. So let me just stretch this chart out a little bit so we can get my stock window here. So right here we can see the low of this bar is 435. So it's real easy. We make it real easy. Once again, this is the second part of the methodology. I found a stock that's doing some crazy stuff. Chances are there's going to be more action in the future. And, of course, we never know when the market's going to flip over and start going down. Could be tomorrow, could be a year from now. We just don't know. But we want to be prepared for when these things happen because there's no reason to not know about it. So it's real simple. All we do is we come up here and we say the low of that bar, that daily bar was $4.35, as we can see from my little window over there. So $4.
For those of you that don't have the price alerts, get your pen and paper ready. There's going to be some good stuff coming. I also want to say Jamie's been on a long spree there. And I wanted to remind everybody we are kicking off earnings season, and if you don't have a single stock window like those two windows over there on the right up at all times, you might be doing yourself a disservice because one of the most important things we need to be looking at right now is that earnings date. And for an example, on TRXC there, the earnings date is showing a value of 16.25. The way Trade Ideas expresses this is how many days until earnings. And the day is also broken down into quarters. So that's why you'll see a half a day, midday, or 16.35 or 75 or 0.25 towards the end of the day. Just pay attention to that whole number because when you get down to one, you're getting close to earnings, and there's nothing worse, speaking from experience, of reminding yourself that earnings are coming up, because there have been times where I was not aware in my long illustrious trading career, and of course you go home with a position into earnings you didn't mean to. Do you think you're going to get the good side of it? No, you're more than likely you're going to get the bad side of it. It's going to go against you. So that's happened to me once or twice, and I learned real quickly when we're in earnings season, that's got to be one of the checkoffs you guys are making, and a real simple way to do that is to use the Trade Ideas single stock window. And then while you're there, a couple things like Jamie pointed out. Glance at the short float. Anything above 15% is kind of interesting. Well, we got 26% on this one. Glance at the revenues. Is this company in debt? Are they making money? The EPS, glance at the EPS. We got a negative 0.59. This company is not making money. We can tell that. And then, of course, the float itself is rather decent at 74 million. But when you start getting down into some of these stocks that are crazy movers, and we might touch on a couple of them today as examples, 5 million float is not very much. The one he just pulled up here, Chimea, is 10 million float. That's not that much. These are not Intels and Microsoft's people. So when you have a stock that has a 5 or 10 million share float, it doesn't take much of a catalyst or a buyer or a seller to really get these things moving. So, start getting familiar with making this a part of your repertoire here, double-clicking on the alerts, looking at the charts, but definitely taking a look at the basics here on the single start, especially making sure you're not running right into earnings season on that countdown clock up there.
Yes, yes, very good words of wisdom there, Steve. And, if everybody takes note here, I just pulled up CHMA from, the second stock in this little window here. And of course, when we're looking at a compressed chart, you're like, hey, it's flatlined all day. But as soon as I kind of notch it up one more time, now we can see the actual price movements. I mean, it's a small stock. This thing just got absolutely waylaid today. It opened up here. Well, actually, that was still pre-market right there. So if you look at prior close, I mean, man alive, closed right at 10, they gapped it down, and the thing's just getting punished, right? So now when we look over at this daily chart, we're like, yeah, it's not the prettiest chart around, but still, if this area right here gets penetrated, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, nothing but what we like to call the void, Obviously, that one's already been penetrated, so on the gap. So, moving forward, can't really set any limit alerts other than the low today. What the low today was, which of course we might get the gap down tomorrow. But the bottom line is that CHMA is definitely something you want to keep an eye on tomorrow. If it opens up a few pennies down, maybe it's a small gap, then you might have a chance for a really nice entry. So just for, posterity's sake here, we're going to go ahead and make a low limit alert here. So the low today, I believe, Steve, if I'm looking at things correctly, was about 370, right?
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So right-click, say 369. If the price falls, we want to go short.
Exactly.
Breaking down. Not only breaking down, but into the void. And those are some of the nice trades, when they go into the void.
Death spiral.
So I hope everybody can see the methodology there. We resort these windows, find, hey, where's the beef? Not just the, not just the stocks that are doing, having average moves, but the stocks that are really putting on a show today, throwing a fit, because that fit is typically a precursor of what could happen in the future. All right, so we looked at some of the downside ones, and now let's look at some of the stocks that were screaming today. So change from close. All right, so we had AMDA up 23%, right? We had the gap here. But then look, the thing pulled back mostly all day. So, is it going to fill the gap here? I don't know. Who knows? But tomorrow, if things are really as resilient as this gap up indicated, then also, even though AMDA gave back a lot of what it was up on this initial gap here, there's still a reason for this, as well as a reason for this. But if we look at the about half of its gain was given away, roughly speaking, if we're just eyeballing this chart here. So for tomorrow, I don't know, Steve, on these, something's happening. So it's in play. So instead of using these stretched out wicks here, I mean, typically, like if it got back above this level right here, I'd be highly interested in taking a look at it.
Yeah. And that brings up a good question. I was actually answering somebody's question while you were talking, and it's a very common question. Is like, hey, you go to these channel bars and you can't really do a lot of configuration and changes. But here's what you can do, guys. You can right-click any one of those windows you like, and then save to cloud and then go back
Yep.
to your default layout, load from cloud, and you're essentially doing the same thing, but you've now got it forever, and you can configure it and make it just the way you want to. So that's one of the best things about those channel bars is it's a lot of templates and work that's been done for you. You just can't make any changes on the channel bar itself, but the cloud allows you to borrow that and keep it for your own and make it all pretty and make it how you want to do it on your default layout. So you never have to go back to the channel if you don't want to for that particular.
Absolutely, and it's so easy to do that, everybody. You just right-click once you make your changes and just save it to the cloud. That way when you pull your default layout back up, you just file, load from cloud, boom, that new modified window is right there. You can incorporate it into your default layout or just spawn it from the cloud whenever you want it. Okay, so here's another one today, ETE, which actually Holly traded today, but we all know it had this huge move here, middle of the day, mediocre volume, and then wham, you know. Now, what drove this price up like that? Don't know just yet.
Well, we had some news. There was some news intraday, and it was
Yeah.
corresponding to WMB was on the other side of that news.
Right,
so,
right. That one was the one that
we
went
might
down.
talk about that later. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. So ETE definitely had some explosive type news and price movement in it today. So looking at the daily, you know, if we were pretending like this was a trend change, you know, it popped out of its little range right there. Now, you know, drawing some lines, you know, over here to this other wick over here, or, you know, if we want to try to get a jump on this tomorrow, earlier than later, before this, you know, we could always pick somewhere right about here, you know. Okay, if it pops above that line again tomorrow, I want to know about it, or we could always go back over here to the daily and just use the high of this bar and say, okay, 11.15. All right, second part of our methodology, 11.16. Daily, break, explosive volume from Monday. And once again, as Steve likes to say, this is unemotional Jamie making these notes so that when the market is live and he gets the alert, he can read and see what unemotional Jamie said to do and act on it with, you guessed it, no emotions.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right,
I can't. I really. I mean, we laugh about it, but I cannot stress that enough. That's what I really dig about these limit alerts, these price alerts, is that most of the time you are doing your homework in an environment like this. You know, maybe you're relaxing, you're not thinking about the stress of the bell, the market's not turned on, things are not going against you. You've got time to think rationally and fall back on your Zen type of mentalities of being unemotional. Okay, I see that, I've seen that. The whole idea is to try and get yourself back in that frame of mind when the markets are on. And I know it's hard. It's much easier said than done. So anything that you can do to jar your memory in the future present time as the alert goes off as to why you really liked this and why you're being unemotional about it. Whatever you can do, I think it's a great point to be as descriptive as possible in what you're seeing to yourself in the future tense.
And in the true beauty of this, once again, and everybody hears me say this over and over and over again, it's the simplicity. It's the simplicity. It's a simple methodology, and it's so simple, right? And, you know, with all the data that's out there, confusing and meaningless, these are ways to take the data, shrink it down into something that makes sense, and apply it, right? So once again, CBK, up 16.4% from the prior close. And, you know, today, you know, we'd like to have known about it after it took this big pullback. It's up huge. It takes a big pullback in the 30-minute period intraday, and then wham, look what happens after it takes that pullback. Clearly a stock in demand, but as we all know, they do not go straight up and they do not go straight down. In an idealistic world, they would, but we all know that idealism is just that, especially in the marketplace. So we can see what this one did today. It gave a nice little pullback. This one went all the way back. But they don't have to necessarily do that to be valuable on this daily level. So, you know, going back to the same methodology, you know, whether we want to use this bar, or the very top, it's just a, a matter of taste, There's only going to be 30 cents in here. If this thing really does crack here, well, look what we have over here. Say hello to Mr. Void once again, right?
Yep.
So, if you're me, you just set a 295 level, right? 295. Rises, long, daily break with
Big gap
void.
above. Yes, void.
Yeah.
Vacuum cleaner.
Okay. So once again, you are putting ammunition in your weapon for the next day, 2 days, 3 days, because, without any ammo, it's not going to do you any good. But, the beautiful thing here is the simple methodology. Use the list to find what's happening. Where's the action? Where's the beef? We pull it up, we draw the lines on our charts for the breakouts, and we input the limit alerts. Simple, easy, repeatable on a daily basis.
You've heard me say before, chance favors the prepared mind. That's what Jamie's showing you, the very simple exercise of just using the trade ideas tools to make what can be very intimidating to a lot of people, but narrow it down to the simple form of efficiency, the golden triad, the alert, the chart window, and the price alerts. And when I said chance favors the prepared mind, the more you can prepare your mind for when the real deal pops up on your screen, the better opportunities you're going to have. Otherwise, the markets can be very, very confusing. You can spin yourself in circles just trying to keep up to the minute with what's going on in the market, or you can have a little bit of a game plan, a little bit of stuff in your back pocket that when it pops up, you know the reason it pops up, and you don't have to get all involved with everything else that's going on. So we're trying to make these tools and these channels and these pre-done templates just an easy way to show you a simple method to go round robin and just do our homework. I mean, I'm going to spend some time on Wednesday night doing the Trade of the Week webinar, spending most of the time, showing exactly how I look for these trades and how I do my homework and how I even come up with the trade of the week. And it's really just the simple triad of double-clicking on the alerts that you trust, looking at the charts, and then using your price alerts effectively to make sure you never miss the moment when it happens. If you don't have those price alerts, you're stuck pretty much just scribbling them down on a piece of paper and constantly checking in with them throughout the day, and that's just one more step that makes things a little more difficult. We don't want to make things difficult.
Simple is better. Simple is better. Just keep on telling yourself that. It's true, especially in the markets. Simple is better. And this is about the simplest methodology that you can apply to the markets. And, once again, when you see something like this, we could spend all of our time throwing up moving averages and drawing trend lines and all that good stuff. But, that's really just a big waste of time, because think about it. If all you had to do was look at a chart and draw your trend lines and be right, well then, probably none of you, including myself and Steve, would even be sitting here right now, because trading would be so easy that we'd all just be ironing our $100 bills and figuring out what island we were going to buy next. But that's not the way the world works, right? So, everybody just needs to kind of, keep in the back of their mind, where else can you get this type of stuff? These lists that can either have 100 or 1,000 stocks on there. By the way, let's conduct an experiment. These lists were only showing us 100 stocks. So what would happen if I came down here and increased the record count? Say I increase it from 100 to 300. No. And we might find something here, and we might not. But what I'm trying to show here is that if it's there, we will find it. Now, obviously, since I had it set on 100, and not 100 were maxed out, obviously when I change the values here, it's not going to show anymore. But when you start looking at broader type, filter sets, then that can be extremely valuable. Okay, so I hope everybody understands the methodology. We find the thing, and then we set our alerts. All right, so now let's just kind of cruise on over, because as most of you are aware, we've got this thing, this automated system well, not really an automated system, I should say. We've got an AI. Her name is Holly. And now we're going to take a look at what type of action she was into today. So instead of keeping those guys up there, I'm just going to consolidate for easy viewing with the All Trades plotter. And we'll shrink it up here just to make sure everybody can see it. And then we'll take a look at what Holly was up to today. So Holly only had a few strategies in the hopper today. So let me just do some resizing here. And we can see she had a total of 6 strategies in the hopper today. 4 longs, 2 shorts, and after everything was said and done, I think we had, let's see here, the majority of the trades were produced by this long right here, which is Shake That Moneymaker. We can see coming into the day, it was ranked at a 66% chance of winning based on the back test. Today, it outperformed itself. Hooray. 70% of the trades that it issued were winners. And we can see over here, 10 trades. From that one, 3 here, so we had 14 and 4. We had a total of 18 trades generated by Miss Holly today. After everything was said and done, up 46 cents or just shy of 9 basis points. But as we all know, we can't see everything that transpired based on these ending numbers here, because it was a lot more interesting than what you see right here, especially if you're a higher functionality subscriber and you were participating in some of these trades that Holly started kicking out pretty shortly after the open. So if I expand this down a little bit, we can see, I'm going to sort by time here. So Holly started positioning herself 6:51, 21 minutes into the market. So let's just get a chart up here.
That's
so
West Coast time.
Yeah, West Coast time. We all get nice early 6:30 a.m. open here, but we get done a little bit sooner. So once again, let me pull the old flipperoo here. All right. Now, before we get started, it would be kind of interesting here. We had a nice little gap down the SPY, and then the gap and fill. So let's see here, about 20 minutes in, 5, 10, 15, 20. So, you know, you're watching the market go up. It was probably no surprise. About 20 minutes into the market, Holly starts getting long. Now, from a psychological standpoint, hey, yeah, that's hunky-dory. But then a lot of people out there, you know, when we start approaching this level here from the day before, and we'll just throw a line out just to make sure everybody sees that. You know, from that prior close, everybody's thinking to themselves, well, should I get long here? You know, we just had 5, 10, 15, 20. We've just had a 30-minute extended up move into the SPY. We're hitting that plug over there from the prior day. I don't know what I should do. Well, Holly made that quite clear today, because this is when she started initiating right here. You know, it's not like she started piling into 50 longs down here. Boom. This, you know, this is where she started getting long right up in here, 5, 10, 15, 20. And not only that, but it continued to pile into longs, even past this area that would give a lot of humans pause, right? And that's what she does. There's no emotion, right? So when we're looking at the, you know, the closed out trades today, of course, these were 30-minute holds for Shake That Moneymaker. The majority of these were set up to be 60-minute holds. Let's see, where's my hold time? Right here. So you can see Shake That Moneymaker was 30s. All these other ones were 60s. So, biggest winner of the day, from a closed out perspective, you know, here's Holly getting long here. And of course, with a 30-minute hold time, was still able to glean 71 cents. But, oh my goodness, the real Easter egg here is not what we're seeing here. It's what happened after she got out of the trade. So, had you stayed in the trade, $2.59. So we almost left $2 on the table here by getting out at this point in time. But as we say all the time, you know, you're a trader, you're in a stock. It's just moving up, moving up, moving up, not taking those big of a pullback. You don't have to get out there. You just say, okay, it's working. I'm going to set my stop loss. I'm going to try to get a little bit more out, but I'm going to try to preserve what Holly made. I don't want to make any less than her. I don't want to diminish her performance. So just using some simple, straightforward stop loss management can allow you to take more out of a trade depending on when Holly gets out of it. Because, as we always say, she is the epitome of unemotional because she has instructions and she follows them to the T.
What also might be a good example of today's trade would be the ETE. Now, this was a fast mover, and Holly jumped into a stock that was trading on news, which usually is something I'll hold my breath on. And Barry pointed this out very, very well in the trading room. Some of these time stops and profit targets, those work in other words, those are calculated for a stock running and trading in a normal environment. But when you've got a stock trading on news, you just throw all that out the window and just trade for your life because, as you can see, there was a lot of meat left on the bones if you didn't jump out early. And I'm not trying to be Captain Hindsight here. I'm making a point that if there's a trade that Holly takes that is a news driven trade, and it was very easy to see that it was, because of the volume and the escalation and the candles. Take what you can get on your own time frame, because you kind of want to throw all that other stuff out the window. The fact that it's trading on news really makes everything else obsolete in terms of time stop, target stop. This is a stock that is in motion and things are happening quick. So, I think the AI wound up losing a little bit on this one only because it wasn't stopped out and it held on for the entire timed hold. But again, this is a stock that was in the news. It was trading actively on some sort of catalyst. If you get a really nice move, you don't have to stick around just because Holly says she's sticking around. You can use your own trader's hat. Again, it's a gray box system. We give you the I should say the AI gives you the trade, gives you the entry, gives you the idea, but everything else is a suggestion.
Right, and the beautiful thing about this ETE is not what we see in the intraday because, Holly's just screaming, hey, look at the stock. Now, the timing was off a little bit today, but the value in Holly producing ETE today, even though it was a 25-cent loser on her blotter, is when we look over here. Okay, what do we see here, right? Well, we see here's today, right? And look what's happening on the long-term chart. Over here it's like, we missed it. But, more than likely, when you saw this trade come out, maybe you participated, maybe you didn't. But the huge takeaway is what this is showing us. We discovered this today because Holly traded it and took a small loser in it. However, look what's going to happen.
Now it's on the radar.
Look what's approaching, all right? So we set this limit alert right here because it tipped its hat to us today. So boom, limit alert right here. If ETE cracks that level, I definitely want to know about tomorrow or Wednesday or whenever it does it, because this looks extremely similar to our trend change lubricants. So, it's taking, so what? Holly made this call, she lost a quarter, but guess what? I found out something very important on the daily which could benefit me greatly in the future. So it's learning from Holly, as we always talk about as well. It spit out a loser, but it showed me a different path that, I very easily could capitalize on. And, that's what this is all about. Sometimes the trades work immediately. Sometimes it shows you a piece of information that you were lacking. But the bottom line is, Holly is your trading buddy.
Let's do another example. Let's do the same thing that happened on Friday, PTCT, another trade that Holly found that was also in the news. Had a giant news event, and Holly actually piled into that thing, midstream, and Barry in the trading room, they were all over it. Not only were they trading it initially, they were trading around it. They were getting back in for second and thirds. But the point is that, this is now an interesting trade on the daily chart. As I look at it, it could be setting up for kind of a go, pause, go setup. Very, very narrow range today. For those that are inclined to maybe keep track of this one, if it takes out today's narrow range tomorrow, in other words, the high of today's trading was 875, so an 876 alert may be warranted to try and add to the chance favors the prepared mind. And all we're doing here is preparing the mind and hoping for some good results when the markets turn back on. We have a bit of a game plan that pops up in our face, and we're not, on our heels stammering and stuttering as to what it is we want to do. We've got a bit of a head start, kind of like swinging a baseball bat with the donut on in the on-deck circle. You time in the pitch, you're watching it, and just getting yourself ready. So again, if you don't have these price alerts functionality with trade ideas, you're just basically limited to writing the stuff down and having to keep an eye on it. So whatever we can do to make it easy and more efficient in our workflow to try and have chance favor the prepared minds, you can bet we're doing it for you guys.
Right, and once again, this is a methodology. It's not a system. It's just a method. It's the same method each and every day. So, without spending too much time on each one of these individual trades, Adobe, OLED, Adobe, and CERN, just between those three trades, here's the OLED, 259 on the non-exit, Adobe, 117 on the non-exit, and CERN, Holly made 18 cents, and there was a potential of $1 there. So just between those three long trades today, there's an additional $3.18 that you can't see here, right? So it's once again reading between the lines at what could have happened today. In those trades with the trader's hat on and some proper risk management, you could have maximized those trades for up to another $3.18 if you hit them perfectly. Of course, nobody hits it perfectly, but even if you could have gleaned an extra 2 points out of the potential 3, man, what a day changer that is. It's huge. And so, with the methodology that we're sharing with you here today, the goal is to keep it simple and repeatable. So I hope this resonates with everybody, this simple methodology of using the lists, looking at the charts, setting up your price alerts, and interacting with Holly. It's a very powerful trio, and if you start using this methodology, you will be pleasantly surprised.
There's a question here that might be worth some. Are you done? Are we done with this? I don't want to jump around too much.
No, we're done with Holly.
Okay, done with Holly, so that's good. Somebody asking a question. The software is not for the person with a certain specific set of stocks, rather a screener that is looking for opportunities for any new day. You can do both. We screen for the entire market, but we also can screen with a watch list. I had a guy set up the other day. He wanted to only watch the IBD 50, so I helped him set up what Jamie's showing you right here now using our watch list, and we assigned with the IBD 50 list of stocks. It had to be manually entered in there or copied and pasted and scraped in there, and then you're assigning the alerts or whatnot to only watch those particular stocks. So to answer your question, it really is for both. It's for both that want to have the entire universe of stocks open, which I don't know why you wouldn't, quite honestly, but we also have the ability for those that have watch lists to try and keep their comfort level to know what their stocks are doing. Are their stocks making new highs? Are their stocks making new lows? A lot of people use that function.
Right. So, we can watch the whole market for you, or if you just have that specific list, it's so simple to create that list and then point our windows to that list. So yes, if you do want to focus on a small universe of stocks, we can certainly do that as well.
And stay on there because it dovetails to the next question. How do I make a new window to show breakouts with big relative volume for OTC and pink sheets? Is that possible? First thing you need to do is go to the exchanges there on that tab.
Right.
And he'll show you that we are defaulting to the big exchanges, but you can suppress the big exchanges and just go to the pink sheets and bulletin boards and the Toronto Stock Exchange if you want. So that tab in our configuration window will show you all of the exchanges that are available to you and how you would go about doing that. So once you've selected those, you just need to create the alert that you're looking for, and relative volume is certainly a filter that you'd be able to put in there, ND, to try and create some of the scans that you're looking for. So yeah, without a doubt, Trade Ideas is not just for your regular dad stocks. It's for anything you want to look at, as long as we can track those data, and we can track the over-the-counter and the pink sheets if you want to do that as well.
Right, let's just do this real quick just to help illustrate. So I go here and I just pull up my volume radar, which a lot of people might be familiar with. So we say pink sheets and OTC, and then we probably got to get rid of this volume requirement. and any, any price things, just to kind of see what's out there. Okay, so now this is only looking, this list right here is only looking at the pinks and the bully. Let me make sure I got that right. Pinks and OTC, right? And then we can just sort by this column here, relative volume. So now you can see lots of stocks out there having extremely high relative volumes. We can quickly tell if that stock finished at its high or its low. But, to get back to your question, I believe that, who was it, ND asked that question. Yeah, we can do that. If you're already a subscriber, sign up with a training session with either myself or Steve. We can help you get that window configured specifically. If you're not a subscriber and you do sign up, still go over to the training page, sign up for a training session. Either Steve or myself can help you get that window dialed in for the OTC or the BBs.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, because we do, we've got to move on to some new alerts that we want to set, which is always the most fun part of the hour.
Right.
But there is, one example I wanted to make. The ETE, the WMB was on the alerts we set last week as a pullback alert, and I want to show you why it probably was not a good idea to take that trade. As I talked about earlier, this was a stock in the news. It was on the other side of that ETE, which Holly was playing to the long side. Well, WMB was hammered to the downside of that news, and it blew right through the alert. So the alert triggered, came up, so boy, what do we got here? Let's take a look. Immediately I could tell there was something going on. The volume was incredible. The prints were everywhere, big red candles, so it should have just been screaming at you, news, news, news. Probably not a good idea to step in and take the trade if you're not familiar with what's going on, because I say that because on these pullback alerts I always say it's very important to watch how the stock is trading. The alert goes off doesn't mean jump in and buy it. It means, okay, pull it up and watch it. Well, we pulled this one up today, WMB, and immediately realized this thing could go anywhere. There's news that's out there. It's not being accounted for. There's hysteria in the stock. It's running back and forth. Probably not the best example to use on taking a pullback alert that we set just based on the way it was trading when you pull it up and watch how it's trading. So I just wanted to kick that in there for today's discussion to let you know why you might not take some pullback alerts, and if it's going crazy with news, that's probably a good reason to lay off because you don't know what's going on, quite honestly, and you can get sawed out really quickly.
Yeah, and I'll throw in this last little comment about these types of plays. I mean, news is kind of like mini earnings. I mean, the stock's going to act as if it were having earnings, kind of similar, and that's why we always talk about, when earnings season is on, you really have to be nimble because there's two sides of the coin. Some traders live for earnings because that's when they make all their money, but things are so unpredictable in earnings. The simplest example is, hey, they beat their estimates. Okay, why did the stock gap down 20 bucks? Right? Happens all the time, right, Steve?
Yep. It's not a matter of the news. The market interprets it.
Exactly, exactly. So it's just really hard to make those determinations because, statistical probability kind of flies out the window. So when you see these news plays, it's the same type of mentality that's going on as when, earnings season. So in any case, I think it's time to move on to the limit alerts for today, right, Steve?
We don't have a full load. We've got a few. We just wanted to sneak some in there that caught our attention.
Sure.
And again, we did not go over the market recap today. It's the same old story. It's that same trend line, guys. I've been drawn up there around 209.50 in the spiders. We're real close to having the spiders butt their heads up there on that trend line. So be careful with going crazy on the new longs left and right. I don't know how much more upside we have in this market, but time will tell. Just wanted to throw that out there. So.
Yes, sirree. Okay, so
let's do some alerts.
Yeah, we've got a little bit smaller of a bag today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of these guys.
So a pullback. Why don't we start with however you want to start?
Yeah. We'll start with the pullback one first.
All right.
Which would be on this guy right here, Hero.
Go to the intraday on this one because there's not a lot to look at. We don't want to chase that big green bar in the daily, but it is doing something with some great volume. So then we come back to the intraday here and say, where is our pivot point? Where was prior support becoming current resistance and whatnot? Well, that line that's already in there at 320 seemed to make the most sense. That was a really strong move. I wouldn't expect it to give that whole candle back on the daily today, but if you want to find a spot and get tricky using the intraday 5 or 15 minutes, that would be the thinking behind using that as maybe a pullback alert to try and catch a better entry on a daily chart that looks really good. Well, looks horrible, but it's starting to pull itself out now. It broke above that $3 level with some nice ease and should have some clear sailing above, but we don't want to chase it. It had a pretty good move today, so that's the example for a pullback using a 15 or 5-minute chart.
Right, and David was asking if we were going to download the list of the price alerts from the cloud, and I'm going to insert the cloud link for these limit alerts into the chat area here shortly, so everybody can just copy it right out of the chat window.
Easy.
All right, so now all the rest, and it's kind of interesting, Steve, because last week the majority of the 10 or 11 alerts that we distributed to everybody were from above. They were all pullbacks, right? And now we're kind of seeing things, all the rest of these are going to be, rising up to that peak, and that's kind of an interesting observation about the market in general, right?
Yeah, we've been getting a little consolidation. All right.
LinkedIn is one that we farmed out. I can't remember how long ago it was. It has not triggered yet, but we still like it, so that's why we're going to include it here. So here we can see, the daily. Of course, intraday just had a nice run up and just kind of held its own all day. But
yeah, on that daily, I like the way it hasn't pulled back. It's consolidating over time, going sideways. Sideways is great. It's what we want to see for these kinds of moves, not chasing a bunch of bars. So with that thinking, I think it's the same look that we're just kind of modifying an alert that we had set last week. The very first candle after that gap down there is the true high of the last few months here. But there's a high there right above that 122.37 wick, which we're going to go ahead and assume that that's a good trigger point to get a head start and hopefully a good head of steam on that very first candle. And then above that first candle, you have nothing but that void above, the gap above, which has no resistance and no supply that we know of because it traded through there on a gap. So these are very similar to most of the setups we're bringing to you guys. Just another one of the same here, and we'll set it and see if chance can favor the prepared mind if it goes off.
Moving right along, PTLA, looking real tight right there.
Real sidewaysy. Again, looking nice on the sideways. I love the sideways action.
Yep. So, hey, more of the same right here. This looks familiar. We got TXTR. More of the same. These nice tightening patterns, getting ready to, hopefully bust out to the next level. So here we have TXTR. And then, it's been a while since we traded the home builders, Steve. But of course, everything comes around in cycles,
They've been doing well. Some home builders have been doing better and dragging some of the other ones up from behind. Beazer, love that chart once again. It's going sideways. It's not really pulling back, and it's given us a pretty definitive near-term high to break out there. So, what is that level? A 980, it looks like, right?
Right, the 980 level right here. All right, and then, we kind of got a mixed bag today. We got a couple of different pharmaceuticals in here, the PTLA, and then, of course, everybody probably recognizes AMAG. And once again, just going back to that high of the 26th, nice tight little consolidation, never pulled back too much in this little area right here. So, looks good to go.
And it might even take some of these from belows, an extra 3 or 4 days to chop back and forth before it has the energy to get through, and that's okay. These are not all expected to go tomorrow. These are just levels of interest. Some of them may not trigger, some of them might. And I still got my price alerts. I've still got triggers that haven't triggered from 2 weeks ago. Probably time to cut some of those because things do start to change eventually. But the point is here, we're not expecting these to go tomorrow. Just near term the next few days, and we want to know if it happens, and we can pull it up and see what the market's doing. Now, if these alerts go off to the upside and we just got some news, economic news or what have you, and the market's puking, then all bets are off. These are probably none of these trades you'd want to take if the general tide out there is going south for whatever other catalyst, macro or economic type reasons. So that's why I always say pull it up and see what's going on. It's not black or white. You want to see how the market's trading, how the stocks are trading, how the sectors are trading for the most part. All those do come into play.
Right, and depending on your, your risk tolerance and the amount of stock that you like to trade per transaction, whether it's 100 shares or $5,000 worth, pick the lower end tier of, if I'm going to start making an entry into a stock that looks good, pick the smallest amount that you're comfortable with and get some skin in the game, because once you do that, then you're paying a lot more attention. And, the interesting thing to point out here is with these price alerts, it's about the overall gain. So, you get into 10 and in a week you're up 2 points cumulatively, because obviously, it's nice when the majority of them work, but when we're playing this game, it's all about the net, right? So if it took you 10 to get up 2 or 15 to get up 3 points, that's what it's all about here. It's spreading the risk around, right? So you only might be in 1,000 shares, but it's on 10 different 100 share entries. You're spreading your risk around, which is what trading is all about. And not only are you spreading your risk around, you're doing it with things that are statistically inclined to go your way, as in with Holly. And then with the price alerts, we could apply statistical probability, but on these we're mainly doing on a technical, so we're mixing everything together, and it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
All right, well, wow, this hour passed pretty quickly, Steve. So I guess we better get Scott in here and let him show everybody our thanks by giving them
Unmuted.
Discount codes to people who are not subscribers yet that might be interested in getting active with us.
Yeah, show the pricing page there. Yeah, Trade Ideas is a software as a service company, and our core is the monthly subscription. That gives you all the real-time data, charting, and very importantly, a full hour of one-on-one training. As soon as you sign up, go to the support section, click on training, pick your preferred time and date. We'll help you out. Of course, the annual saves you a lot more. It's only $888 a year as opposed to $99 a month. And all the same great stuff. To access the AI channel, the odds maker backtester tool, price alerts, and the other higher level functionality requires a one-time purchase of the AI channel and odds maker license. It's $1,100, and that goes along with an existing subscription to give you everything. Something I like to do to give everyone who attends a way to save is offer a product code, and this one this week is Holly420, and Holly needs to be all in caps, and that'll take half off your first year. So you can try your first month. So you can try Trade Ideas for just $49 your first month, or 20% off your first year. It drops the annual cost from $888 to just $710. It saves you a bunch there. Or upgrade to the Odds Maker. Or upgrade to get the Odds Maker AI package to get the top level services, and the code will take 30% off the $1,100 to get that to you for just $770. You can roll this all into one for $1988. And the good thing is the code works to take the 20% off the year, 30% off the month, so you can get the total for just $1,480, and that saves you $508 immediately. So to save $508 immediately, go to bit.ly/AI Holly, all caps AI Holly, and that lets you click through to do that. Use the promo code. Also made it real easy for you. You don't even have to write it down. Go to the handouts panel in your GoToWebinar interface and click on that PDF that's titled April 18th Trade Ideas Specials. Give you the same information, lets you purchase this and save a bunch. Any questions, email info@trade-ideas.com. You can email Jamie directly at jhodge@tradeIdeas. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/TradeIdeasPro, Twitter, TradeIdeas1, and Trade Ideas, or Steve is @TodayTrader. Thanks, everyone. They'll be reporting up tomorrow. Thanks, Steve. Thank you, Jamie.
Hey, Scott, real quick here. Let me spray out this link real quick here.
Sure.
So everybody has the. Okay, that should be there now. The cloud link for the limit alerts.
So if you're looking for the cloud link on the limit alerts, it's in the chat window. Just go ahead and click on it or grab it and copy and paste, and you'll be good to go. And remember, when you do load from cloud, nothing pops up and says, congratulations, you did it. You just need to pull up your limit alerts, and then you'll see the time, date stamps. There's some new stuff added in there, and that was simply done by loading it from the cloud when you guys get to that point.
All righty, Scott.
Yep.
Unless you have anything else to add, I think we're done.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.